Okay, welcome back. So if you think back to the assessment we did at the beginning of the course, you remember that one of the criteria for pass grade or a solid grade on the GCSE English language paper was an extensive vocabulary. And we're going to have a look at that aspect of your English language development in this video. Now, I've really broken vocabulary down into three main categories. The first one is vocab specific for essays. That's what we're going to look at first of all. We could also call those discourse markers. The next one is vocab which is specific for analysing language. That's critical vocab. We're also going to take a look at that in this video. And the final one is more generalized vocab. So this is general descriptive vocab. And that's something that you're really going to have to build on your own, because I can't cover all of the possible vocab in a video. It would just be an infinitely long video. So my suggestion for developing your vocabulary more generally is to get a small notepad or just a little booklet, and use it as your own personalized vocabulary book. So as you come across new vocab, when you're reading, as you're going through your day-to-day life, you can note that down and look up definitions as well. And over time, you will have your own personalized vocabulary book. And when you have a free moment, you just scan back through it and just remind yourself of some of those words that you've picked up. And over the course of 4 or 5 months, you can pick up a couple of hundred words, and it's a guarantee that you're going to use those in your descriptive writing in the creative side of your exam. So it's definitely worth doing. I mean, it's something that I've done myself throughout education, really. Particularly as you go higher up, you get a lot of specialized vocabulary, so it's worth keeping a notepad just of specialized words. Okay, so first of all, we're going to look at discourse markers. And yeah, as I've stated on this first slide here, your vocab is kind of, your power, really. The more extensive your vocabulary is, the more sophisticated it is, the more powerfully you're going to be able to express yourself. Okay, so looking at discourse markers, first of all, we've got expressions of contrast. So, however, on the other hand, in contrast. The way you should use these, you should put them at the start of a sentence, and then there should be a comma after them, and then you would go on to make the rest of your point. However, comma, and then whatever the contrasting point is. Next up, making a concession. So whenever you have some type of a debate or an argument or even a fight, to concede ground or to make a concession means that you take a step back, you allow the other side of the argument to have some influence. So phrases that allow us to make a concession, even though, despite the fact that, in spite of the fact that, regardless of the fact that. Okay, so these are all just simple vocab, but it's good just to remind yourself that you should be trying to incorporate these into your writing. Next up, adding some extra information. Looking through this list here, we have moreover, in addition, additionally, further to this, besides, what is more. Okay, and these just add extra information. They orientate your reader, tell them that you're going to add something new further on in the sentence. Okay, so moving on. Showing cause and effect. So when one thing affects the next thing. Useful vocab here. Therefore, consequently, in consequence, as a result, accordingly, hence, thus, for this reason, because of this. So all of those show cause and effect. And just a quick word on hence and thus. You don't use these at the beginning of the sentence. They're usually used after a comma or a semicolon. So for example, she had been dancing for 5 years, hence her excellent posture. or thus she had excellent posture. And a final note there is you would not say hence why. It would just be hence, because hence already kind of includes that why anyway, so we don't need to put that why in there. It's actually quite bad style to do that. So just quickly looking back at those again, do make sure you start to incorporate, one or two of these words in your own writing. They are really good at showing cause and effect, which you're probably going to be doing at some point. Next up, expressing a condition. So if, in the event of, as long as, so long as, provided that, assuming that, and given that. And expressing a condition, you have basically two things happening, and one is a condition of the other. So I will go to medical school if I get high enough grades. Going to medical school is a condition of getting high enough grades. We could replace that if with provided that or as long as in that particular sentence. Explaining why something is the case. So this is just developing explanations. Because, since, insofar as. Insofar as is kind of an explanation, but it's also a concession as well. But I think you should probably be fine with those ones anyway. They're pretty commonly used. So those are just a few examples of what we call discourse markers. And the question is, why bother using these discourse markers in your essays? The answer really is they just add a much nicer sense of flow to your writing. And what they do is they kind of orientate the reader at each stage. They kind of prepare the reader for the next phase of your thinking. So thus or hence, that orientates the reader, letting them know that what you're about to say is a consequence of something that you've said before. Similarly, however, orientates the reader, letting the reader know you're about to draw a contrast here. And when you see someone who is just skillfully able to use these discourse markers, it really does give a much nicer flow in their argumentation, in their essay. And inversely, if somebody is unable to do that, or they don't really use any discourse markers, what you tend to find is the essay just kind of smashes along from one point to the next, and there's no flow there at all. So it's really a stylistic thing. So what I'd like you to do now is just take a moment, and all I want you to do is just pause the video and have a go at writing 3 sentences, one incorporating a discourse marker which shows contrast, another incorporating a discourse marker which shows cause and effect. Okay, and then finally write a sentence using a discourse marker which incorporates a condition. So just take a moment to have a go at writing that now. Just give you a little bit of practice immediately at actually carrying out